Welcome to A Magical Life, Health, Wealth and Weight Loss. I'm your host, Magic Barclay, lead practitioner at Holistic Natural Health Australia and #1 best-selling author. In this podcast, I aim to give you practical tips on how to accelerate and sustain your health, increase your financial, spiritual and emotional wealth, and to look at something that haunts many of us needlessly, weight loss. Now, sit back and enjoy, because it is time for you to create and truly discover a magical life. Welcome back to A Magical Life. I'm your host, Magic Barclay, and today Susan Gold joins us. Susan is an author, consultant coach, and master at trauma transformation. Her memoir, Toxic Family: Transforming Childhood Trauma into Adult Freedom, is the trajectory of that journey. And there is so much more to talk about with Susan. Welcome.
Hey, Magic. Nice to be here.
So nice to have you here. Now, before I jump into the standard 3 questions, we've just been chatting off air, and I want to acknowledge that addictive behaviours in parents may not immediately mirror in the children, but raising children with addictive behaviours creates the possibility for more. What are your thoughts on that, Susan?
Well, I was terrified to become a parent, having grown up with one whom I perceived as an alcoholic, and my mother had a blistering food addiction. So I didn't want to pass all that down the line. I didn't want to pass the toxicity and the abuse that I experienced. And I really thought 7 times about becoming a parent. Oh my gosh, Magic. I was 42 when I got pregnant, and I was 43 when I popped my son out naturally. It was 10 hours door to door. But I really feel like he's able to become his own authentic human being because I did everything I could to give him a steady, stable, even platform. And I gave him a heads up that addiction, and it all runs in our family. Beware. So I'm hoping that I put the plug in the jug, so to speak, but the jury's still out. He's 19 now, finishing college in 3 years instead of 4.
I love that. And I did the same with my boys. I said, hey, look, mum's had these issues. There's been other issues in our family. Doesn't mean they have to be your issues. So I'm going to just pop a pin in that for now, and we're going to come back to that. I ask all of my guests the same 3 questions, and everyone gives me a vast array of answers. So your first one is, what can your expertise do to accelerate health? Not just the physical, but also emotional and spiritual health.
Well, I really feel, Magic, that I picked an interesting trajectory coming in, and I feel like this planet is a huge schoolroom for learning and an incredible opportunity for soul evolution. And maybe I'll read the fine print a little more carefully next time I come around. But I really feel my experience can benefit others. I was reluctant to really put it out there, but I've traversed quite a bit of muckety muck, as they say, and really now seeing it from this new perspective as the challenges and challengers as actual opportunities for transformation, and blessing these players in my life, including my family. I actually still have a relationship with all of them, and I'm grateful, and I respect particularly my parents and what they experienced and what they brought to the table.
Great. Now, our next standard question is around wealth. People think wealth is just the financial, and certainly with addictive personalities in a family, wealth can be the make or break. It can be the driver, it can be, the thing holding people back. What are your top 3 tips to creating wealth? Not just this financial driver, but also emotional and personal wealth.
I want to say relax into it. There's so much pressure. There was pressure for all of us to perform and perform well and multitask. And I think it's almost become an illness within certainly our culture and society here in the United States. But I have to say that just allowing myself to feel free, to really feel that ease and that well-being, and to trust that I have a whole team that's rooting for me, has really made a huge difference. And I've been very competitive. I was an endurance athlete, but I have to say that people would look at me sideways in the television studios when I was a producer, because I just share information, because I feel like the more I share and the more I open, the more it comes back. And that's really what's been true. And I've lived a very abundant life as a result.
I love that. Okay, final standard question. Have you ever battled your weight? If so, how did you win the war? And what can you offer the listeners who may be going through this?
Magic, first, I want to say, love your body. This is the only earth suit you have. And while right now I'm what some would say is petite and fit, I had a hellacious relationship with food. My mother pit my sister and I against each other and projected her issues our way. I was monitoring every morsel I would put in, and then I was acting out. I had Oreos coming out of my nose at 6 years old. I was completely addicted to food. It was the way that I found a false sense of safety, security, and love. And it was also, oddly, a way to express my anger. I'd find myself eating at someone. So once I realized what I was doing to myself and slowed that rat on the hamster wheel, that was my central nervous system, through all types of modalities, meditation, and all types of therapies, mostly somatic. So those going into my body and really experiencing what was going on internally and examining my feelings and my woe, to really let that up and out. I was able to get to a place with food where I could say, is this the most loving action I can take? Will this really feel good after I down this burger and fries and then have some ice cream on top of it? Or would I really rather have a salad? And self-soothing came in a new canister. It's an ongoing process, but I have real freedom from what was horrible addiction as it pertains to food and health.
I just want to touch on that some people use food as a coping mechanism without realizing that it can become a prison. How would you suggest, and we'll touch more on this in depth in a moment with your family, but how would you suggest that people step away from food as something and just see it for what it is, being food?
For me, I really had to learn to eat. So I had to work with a professional to learn how to nurture my body. I really didn't understand what that was. I really tended to go with the latest fad. And for a long while, I would not let a piece of anything that came to its name that had eyes and a face. I wouldn't eat it. And ultimately, that wasn't what was healthy for me. So the first thing that I think is helpful to sort of stifle or slow the issue enough so you can take a look is start to see how you're relationship with food really is, and then get appropriate help to find a way to nurture yourself and love yourself. I mean, I fell down over and over. I still do fall down. And I just try to love myself and talk to that little wee one inside my heart that's been through it all, that's walked through it all, and just let her know, I love you. It's going to be okay. And we're going to do this together. I love you.
That's a really important message. Thank you. Now, Susan, let's talk about your book. How did it come to be, and why is it about such a taboo topic?
It is a taboo topic, Magic. I didn't think I had that book in me, quite honestly. It surprised me a bit. I was told in 2007 by an Irish seer I had a book to write, and I poo-pooed it. And then two more intuitives back to back told me the same. And the last one said, you have 3 books to write. And I thought, okay, I got to nip this in the bud before I'm writing some kind of library. But I wasn't really that drawn to writing a book, but I was told that it would be my legacy and it would help others, and that I did have a lot to share. I didn't think that my story was that different, but I'm coming to understand the way that I'm sharing from my gut and from my heart, and with integrity and honesty and openness and vulnerability. I do have a special message. I think a lot of us have at least one toxic family member tucked in there somewhere. And like I said, I have love for my family members, but there was a lot of mixed up stuff in the lineage, and it just continually was played out and played out. So I was really glad to sit down and sort of piece together what I had worked on for decades. I mean, I've been in recovery for a long time, and I had worked in so many different arenas. So I had a lot to share. I'm proud to say there's an appendix, which is a workbook, and it's actual exercises that help me walk through some of the things that I have walked through. And it's actually helping other people.
Right. So tell us about the book. Tell us what it means to you, I guess, to share this message, and particularly around toxic families.
So as the publishing date got closer, I got a little more frightened, but I kept telling myself, look, this is your truth. And I was always told, don't talk, don't feel, and don't you dare tell. So this was a big outing. I spent a year, practically 15 minutes a day at the computer, Magic. I'm like embarrassed to say I went at it like a bulldog producer. And I did have a manuscript at that end of that year period, but I didn't feel connected. And then a wise person said, go back and go through it from little Susie's point of view. And that's when it really came together. All the puzzle pieces came together. I understood why I was in the middle of the 5 children. I have 3 brothers and a sister. I understood why we all have a very different scenario of what it was like to grow up in that household. I had a profound respect for my parents and the walk they walked. And just putting my personal and professional trajectory down in written form and really telling the story visually and with gristle has been profoundly healing, and not just for me.
I know when I wrote one of my books, I shared, some of my family history in there. And there was a little bit of a backlash. I gave the people that were mentioned a heads up. And there was a little bit of a backlash of, don't talk, don't don't say it, it never happened, don't put it out there. Did you have anything like that to deal with? And the reason I ask this is many of the listeners may be dealing with, toxic family members that are doing that don't ask, don't tell kind of thing in order to, I guess, numb themselves from what's going on. Have you had to have those difficult conversations, and how did you handle them?
My sister was shocked. She was silent. They all knew I was writing a book, but they didn't really know what the subject matter was. And my sister said, we all have different interpretations, and I understand why you see it the way you do. My oldest brother is totally like an amnesia victim when it comes to our childhood. And so he doesn't understand it. It's like a complete disconnect. My baby brother was disappointed. He thought it was going to be a celebrity tell-all just because of my business background. I had the privilege of working with a lot of household names. So he was just shocked, but he's reading it now and with an open heart. Honestly, it's serving to bring us in a more open dialogue and authentic conversation. And ultimately, Magic, I think it's going to lead to some healing all the way around. But it takes a great amount of bravery to stand up and say, this is my experience of it. And I was very careful to say, this was my experience of this circumstance growing up in this particular family, in this particular arena. And this was my experience in professional relationships. And this was my experience with my greatest guru, who was the man who would become my ex-husband.
Okay, so recently I sat down with my mother and we hashed out a few things from our past. And when I brought up things that had triggered my lifelong roller coaster of eating disorders, she was like, not that that didn't happen, because she used to say, no, that never happened. This time she was more accepting and she was, like, well, I don't remember that, but now I look at your history and you've had, half a decade of different eating disorders. So there must be something there. So I'm glad I was able to have that chat with her and that she finally be open and accepting that this is what I remember and this is now what's happened. There may be some people out there that have aging family members and they might be listening right now and thinking, well, wow, I wish I could get that truth out there just so it would be received, not denied, not validated, just received to stop that cycle of trauma. What do you say to people that maybe don't feel they can begin that conversation?
It's a really tough one. There's sexual abuse between my oldest brother and myself. He used me almost like a lab rat when he was going through puberty. And from what I understand, this is rather typical in dysfunctional households, but it was what was happening in my own. And I did so much work in therapy, and I worked in a group of survivors for over 2 years before I finally wrote a letter that I did not send to him. But what I did do was I saw him in person and I was able to talk with him face to face. And he said, well, that didn't happen. But if it did happen, here's why it happened. And I just had to put the pieces together as best I could and can for myself, because I still have PTSD around him. I still have inklings of trauma and I still have fear. I find myself wanting to cower. I don't see him that often, but I also have a lot of love for him and a lot of compassion that's bloomed at the same time, because I now understand the kind of trauma he was experiencing to black it out. And I also see the pain that he is carrying, being so shut down to all of this. So that's the first thing I would say is take your time, work with a professional or someone that you really trust that's been through the issue, and honor yourself. It's not something to be taken lightly, and let your heart lead you.
Thank you. Now, we've covered a fair bit in a short amount of time. What's something we haven't discussed that you feel the listeners need to hear?
Wow, I love that question, Magic. And I don't think anyone has asked me that question. I'm so bowled over. If we could, I would love to do a little exercise that's in the workbook, because I think it would be a nice gift for your listeners. And it certainly has been a tool that I used and I still use, and maybe they can use it and pass it along too. So if you could just take a deep breath and then take any hand, place it on your solar plexus, which is right at the top of your rib cage and below your breastbone. And then just either silently to yourself or even out loud, whisper, "I'm okay.
I'm okay.
I'm okay.
I'm okay.
I'm really okay."
I'm really okay.
And that's what I'd like to pass along and leave with the listeners. You can do it in meetings. You can do it in doctors' waiting rooms. You can do it in the bathroom before you start your day. It's just helped me so much come back in to my sweet human being who's doing the best to trudge this road that's not always pleasant, but there's so much beauty in it all. So that's what I would leave them with and say.
That is a beautiful exercise. Thank you. And listeners, I just want to remind you, I've spoken about it before. Your body has one job, and that is to keep you safe. The more you perceive that you're not okay, the more your body systems go on alert and create a scenario just to keep you safe. So this little exercise is absolutely perfect to stop you from jumping into sympathetic dominance, to keep you more in a rest and digest state of happiness and safety. So thank you, Susan. That was beautiful.
Thank you, Magic.
Okay, we have covered a lot. Remind us again what your book is called and where can people find it?
The book is called Toxic Family: Transforming Childhood Trauma into Adult Freedom. And you can find it at Amazon, Barnes and Nobles. It's in bookstores globally.
Beautiful. Now, you've already given us a freebie, but we love freebies. So what else have you got for us to share here with the listeners?
If you feel inclined, go to my website at susangold.us, and there's an audio snippet from the book. And there's a way that you can be in touch, because I would love to hear your story.
Beautiful. So that's www.susangold.us. Susan, thank you for your time on our podcast today.
It was lovely being here. Thank you, Magic. And thanks to your listeners.
And listeners, thank you for your time. Don't forget to like, review, subscribe, and share with the people that you love, even the people that you don't love, because maybe they'll get something out of the podcast. And for now, go forth and create your magical life. Thanks for listening today. Please subscribe to hear future episodes, leave a review, and share this podcast. Drop us a line at A Magical Life Podcast on Facebook and let me know what you would like to know more about. You can find us on Instagram at Holistic Natural Health, that's holistic with a W, or at www.holisticnaturalhealth.com.au. That's where you'll access all sorts of articles, freebies, and more.